In the highly manufactured world of professional tennis, words are rarely accidental. Every press conference is a rehearsed dance. Every answer is scrubbed clean by public relations agents before it even leaves the athlete's mouth. Players are trained from their teenage years to speak in safe, rhythmic platitudes. They talk about focusing on the next point, about getting 1% better every day, and about respecting the opponent. It is a shield, a way to keep the hungry media at bay, while keeping their true thoughts hidden behind a wall of diplomatic boredom. But every once in a while, the shield slips. It's not an unforced error on the court, but a glitch in the programming behind the microphone. A moment where the media training fails, and a human being steps through the cracks. This is exactly what happened to Holger Rune. He didn't mean to start a global firestorm. He didn't plan on becoming the obsession of millions of fans in the Philippines and Denmark overnight. It was just a simple question in a throwaway interview, but the way he said her name, the hesitation that hung in the air before he spoke, and that shy involuntary smile that didn't quite fit his reputation as the tour's bad boy, changed everything. The name was Eala, and what happened after that interview wasn't just a story about one tennis player admiring another. It turned into a forensic investigation led by the internet, a cultural debate about gender and fame, and a glimpse into the crushing loneliness of life on the tour. To truly understand why this moment mattered, we have to peel back the layers of what it means to be a chosen one in a sport that eats its young. Imagine for a moment that you are 21 years old. Most people your age are worried about university invisities, or their first entry-level job. But you are carrying the suffocating weight of an entire nation's history on your back. In one corner of this story, we have Holger Rune, the Danish hurricane. Denmark is a proud sporting nation, but in men's tennis, they had been waiting generations for someone like him. Holger isn't just a talented player, he is a force of nature, a volatile mix of technical genius and fiery temperament, who smashes rackets 1 minute and defeats legends like Novak Djokovic the next. He rocketed into the top 10, establishing himself as a future Grand Slam champion. But that ascent comes with a tax. To be the savior of your country's tennis ambitions is a lonely existence. You are isolated at the top, surrounded by a team that works for you. But ultimately, when the match gets tight in the 5th set, you are completely alone. In the other corner, existing in a parallel universe on the WTA Tour, is Eala. If Holger carries the hopes of Denmark, Alex carries the hearts of over 110 million Filipinos. She is not just a prospect. She is a symbol. She was the first Filipino to win a junior Grand Slam title, the first to break through specific ranking barriers that had held her country back for decades. Every time she steps onto a court in some remote city for a challenger event, thousands of people back in Manila are refreshing their phones, living and dying with every point. On paper, they are worlds apart. He plays under the bright lights of center courts in Paris and London. She is often grinding on the outer courts, fighting through the trenches to earn her place. He is loud and brash. She is known for her quiet, stoic determination. But the truth is, they are two sides of the same coin. They both know what it feels like to sit in a hotel room in a foreign city, thousands of miles from home, knowing that an entire country is waiting for your result. They speak the same silent language of pressure. The tennis community is often described as a traveling village. It is smaller than you think. The players watch each other. They share the same gyms, eat in the same player lounges, and cross paths in the same sterile hallways. They understand the struggle in a way the fans never will. So when Eala began breaking barriers, the locker room noticed, and Holger Rune, despite all the noise surrounding his own career, was watching. Nobody knew just how closely he was watching, until that fateful afternoon at a Masters 1000 event. The setting was entirely forgettable, a post-practice media scrum, with the rhythmic sound of tennis balls echoing in the background. Holger sat there sweat-soaked and tired, answering the usual boring questions about his knee injury and his serve statistics. He was on autopilot, giving the robotic answers he had given 1,000 times before. Then a journalist decided to ask a filler question, something to pass the time. Holger, with the women's tour also playing here this week, are there any rising players whose games you admire? The reporter probably expected him to name-drop a superstar like Coco Gauff or perhaps the latest teenage sensation everyone was already talking about. It would have been the safe, easy answer. But Holger didn't take the safe route. He stopped. He paused. And if you watch the footage closely, you can see his eyes drift to the left. A psychological tell that indicates someone is accessing a genuine visual memory, not constructing a prepared sentence. Then came that smile. Not the polished grin for the sponsors, but a genuine, slightly embarrassed smirk. Eala, he said, his voice dropping a decibel, becoming softer than it had been the entire session. I think what she's doing for Filipino tennis is incredible. The way she fights for every point, the way she's had to qualify and grind through the smaller events just to get a shot at the main tour. It's really impressive. The journalist, sensing they had stumbled onto something unique, pushed a little harder. Do you follow her results? Here, the mask of the top 10 superstar completely dissolved. Holger shifted in his seat, looking suddenly like a regular 21-year-old guy who had been caught caring about something he wasn't supposed to mention. I mean, yeah, I think a lot of us do, he stammered slightly. She has a really complete game. Her movement is excellent, and her mental strength, especially in the tight moments, that's not something you can coach. You either have it or you don't. She has it. This wasn't a generic compliment. This was analysis. He spoke about her movement, her mental resilience in clutch moments. You don't get that kind of insight from watching a 30-second highlight reel on Instagram. That comes from sitting down and watching full matches. That comes from genuine study. And then he delivered the line that would break the internet. She's someone I think is going to surprise a lot of people. She has everything it takes to break into the top 50, maybe higher, and when she does, people will realize how special she is. He said when she does, not if. That absolute certainty, that personal investment in her future success, was the spark that lit the fuse. If there is one thing tennis fans do better than cheering, it is detective work. As soon as the clip hit social media, the internet transformed into a forensic unit. Fans weren't just watching the interview, they were dissecting it. They analyzed the micro-expressions, the tone of voice, the specific words he chose. But the investigation didn't stop there. The tennis Twitter community began dredging through years of digital history, looking for breadcrumbs, and they found them.
Oh, did they find that?
The first piece of evidence was the buried fire emoji. A fan dug up a post from Eala's Instagram from 7 months prior, a standard practice photo from a training block in Spain. Buried 73 comments deep, hidden among hundreds of fan messages, was a single fire emoji from Holger Rune's verified blue check account. At the time, it was invisible noise, but now it was a smoking gun. Then came the Instagram story leak. A screenshot circulated claiming to show the viewer list of one of Alex's stories from months ago, celebrating a minor victory. Holger Rune's name was on the list. Since stories disappear after 24 hours, this implied that he wasn't just casually aware of her, he was actively following her day-to-day journey. But the piece de resistance was the Indian Wells photo. A photographer found a discarded shot in their archives from the Indian Wells tournament earlier that year. In the blurry background, behind the main subject of the photo, you could clearly see Holger Rune and Eala standing near the practice courts, locked in conversation, laughing. It wasn't a staged photo op. It was a candid moment of connection that had gone unnoticed by the world, until now. Suddenly, the narrative wasn't just about professional respect. The internet began to spin a tale of a secret romance, or at least a profound mutual admiration, that had been brewing in the shadows of the tour. TikTok editors went to work, splicing together clips of Holger's fiery celebrations with Alex's quiet fist pumps, setting them to romantic ballads. The contrast was cinematic, the fire and the ice. However, in the modern era of social media, no story exists without a backlash. While half the tennis world was swooning over this potential power couple, the other half was sharpening their pitchforks. A heated debate erupted regarding the nature of the coverage. A viral thread from a prominent tennis account criticized the frenzy, asking, why does it take a man's approval to make a woman's achievements viral? They argued that Eala had been grinding for years, winning titles and making history. Yet she was only trending globally because a male top 10 player mentioned her name. It raised uncomfortable questions about how we value female athletes. Are they stars in their own right, or do they only become legitimate when a famous man points at them? Simultaneously, Holger's own fan base was spiraling. The Danish fans, protective of their star, worried that this was a distraction. Holger had been struggling with consistency on the court, dealing with coaching changes and injuries. The last thing they wanted was for him to be the center of a tabloid romance rumor. Focus on your forehand, not the WTA, became a common sentiment on the message boards. The noise got so loud that Holger's management team seemingly had to intervene. A few days after the story peaked, a statement was released to a major tennis publication when asked for comment. It was a masterpiece of corporate sterility. Holger has great respect for all his peers on the tour. His comments regarding Eala reflect his genuine admiration for her work ethic and talent. He wishes her continued success. It was polite, diplomatic, and completely dead inside. The fans immediately recognized the hand of a public relations agent. They got to him. The comments read, "That statement has no soul." The video had all the soul. But amidst the noise, the arguments, and the PR damage control, a different perspective emerged from the Filipino fan. They offered a pragmatic view. They had been screaming for international attention for years, celebrating every small win Alex achieved. If Holger Rune was the catalyst that finally made the wider world pay attention to her talent, they would take it. Support is support, regardless of the source. And then, there was the what if. The fantasy that every tennis fan began to harbor. What if they played mixed doubles? The Grand Slams all feature a mixed doubles tournament, often seen as an exhibition. But imagine the viewership if Rune and Eala teamed up. The chaotic energy of Holger at the net, combined with the lefty precision and calm baseline game of Alex. It would be box office gold. It would be the collision of two worlds, two fan bases, and two distinct personalities. In the end, whether this was the start of a romance, a deep friendship, or simply a case of game recognizing game, the incident revealed something human about these athletes. We tend to view them as machines, programmed to hit yellow balls and win trophies. We forget that they are young people living a bizarre, transient life, traveling from hotel to hotel, often isolated from the real world. They crave connection. They look for people who understand the specific language of their struggle. Holger Rune's slip of the tongue pulled back the curtain on that reality. It showed that he isn't just the brash superstar. He is an observer, a fan of the sport, and a young man capable of genuine, unguarded admiration. And Eala proved that her rise is undeniable, commanding the respect of the world's best, not because of hype, but because of the work she puts in when she thinks no one is watching. But clearly, someone was watching. The story of Holger and Alex is likely far from over. The tour is long, and their paths will cross again. The next time they are at the same tournament, the cameras will be waiting. Every glance, every practice session, every handshake will be analyzed. But for now, we are left with that single, honest interview, a rare moment of truth in a sport built on illusions. It reminds us that behind the rankings and the rivalries, there are just people noticing each other, respecting each other, and perhaps finding a little bit of company in the loneliness of the summit.